welcome back to Kingdom Refresh.
Do you feel refreshed?
I hope so. If you don't now, you should feel after, right? Drink some water. Okay, so this past Sunday's message was called Deep Fake, which is an interesting name.
Deep fake. Don't have a deep fake faith. Have a deep faith.
Yeah, love it.
It's like sounds like a Dr. Seuss. Yeah.
Deep Fake Faith,
Yeah.
the new Dr. Seuss book.
There's too many deep fake Christians out there. Too many people that are saying all the right things. They sound right. They look right, but something's just a little bit off.
Mm.
And kind of the filter, the Turing test, as you will, is, are you quick to speak or are you slow to speak? Are you quick to listen or are you slow to listen? Are you slow to anger or are you quick to get angry? And those are the tests. Are you genuine in your faith? And if you are, then you will be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to get angry, and outflows everything from that in the text. And then also those who are slow to speak, slow to get angry, and quick to listen are ones who display on the outside a genuine religion. But the only way for you to display your genuine religion is not in your speech and what you say, it's what you do. And he's teeing up the main point of the entire letter from James. And we're going to get there not this week, but the week after, which is faith without works is dead. So he's teeing it all up. He's like, listen, don't be the loudest person in the room. Don't be the angriest person in the room. Take care of the widows and orphans in their distress. And then this week we're going to talk about, and don't give favor to the rich people. So take care of the widows and orphans, but don't give favor to the people who are prominent in society. And then he goes, because faith without works is dead. And then he goes on this whole thing. So it's important for us to lay this This is all foundational stuff to get to the greater point of a really giant theological issue, because people might think James and Paul are at odds because Paul says grace alone. He says, you're saved by faith in God alone, by grace alone. But then you're like, but then why is James saying you need to have works? Is that to get saved? And it's like, no, it's a saved person will have works. So it's like we're going to wrap it all up. It's by the end of the series, but I'm excited about what we just talked about because it's really near and dear to my heart, and then I'm excited about what we're going to talk about this Sunday as well.
So in what ways can we tell the difference between genuine faith and deep fake faith? And what are some red flags that we can watch for?
You could only, they say don't judge a book by its cover, which is true. But that's kind of what the outside world is doing with Christianity, because they sometimes only have the cover. They're never going to crack open the spine of the Bible. They're going to look at Christians and what they're doing. And it's going to result, if we're doing it correctly, in a lot of discourse about how bad we are, a lot of accusations about how weird we are. If we're doing it correctly, it's going to result in a level of persecution, at the very least, ridicule. When we were in the Sermon on the Mount, one of the Beatitudes is, blessed are the persecuted. And then he says, rejoice when persecutions come your way. Rejoice when people revile you and say all the kinds of nasty things about you. Yet, we will, instead of rejoicing, recoil and retaliate. But that's not been, throughout history, especially in the early church, the modus operandi. It's been just keep doing good. Keep living out your genuine religion. And by doing so, you shame the ones who are trying to shame you. There's a great story in church history about this slave girl named Blandina. Maybe I've mentioned her before. Blandina was a disabled slave girl and refused to stop worshiping God. Refused to relinquish her religion, her outward display of devotion to God. And so they took her into the Colosseum and allowed, all manner of torture to happen to her. And she never recanted. And all hundreds, maybe thousands of people were in the Colosseum watching her. And they did just terrible things, cut her, whipped her. And slowly, because of her lack of retaliation, but unwavering faith in God and in Christ, the crowd slowly turned against the ones who were torturing this slave girl. It was this weird moment in history where through just being like Christ in a very literal sense, the crowd went from excitement to disdain to indignation, and they turned against, and it says that a miraculous thing happened, that the people watching didn't see a slave girl anymore. They saw Jesus Christ on the cross being crucified, and then they realized it's true, and tons of people got saved and converted to Christianity that day. Well, you can't kill all of them, right? And so that started a huge resurgence. And so that's genuine faith. That's not being a deep fake. That's living out your faith in a very real way. And, we talked about, it all kind of, our public square isn't a Colosseum. Our public square is social media now, right?
Yeah.
It's how we interact with the world on the public stage, Facebook, Instagram, X, to a lesser extent, TikTok or Snapchat. So if people are reviling us and saying evil things about us, is what Jesus says, and we are turning around in anger, being quick to anger, and then quick to speak instead of being slow to listen. Lord, what do you want us to do with this? It's not helping the cause of Christ. It's just helping us feel better, helping us in our flesh feel satiated by giving into that temper, giving into that anger. And the sad thing is sometimes if you just give it some time, the truth kind of comes out in the wash. I think we talked about the Olympics thing. Well, I don't know if you know this. You just can't believe everything you see on social media. So if somebody posts something and says, "Oh, they're making fun of the Lord's Supper," the thing that I immediately go to is, well, of course, they hate Christ. And furthermore, are they really? Because there's been reports of it being more akin to this Greek celebration.
Yeah, the Feast of Dionysus, I believe.
Yeah. So, at the worst, you risk looking hostile in a way that is unchristlike, and at best, you look ignorant because you're yelling about the wrong thing. So that's it, slow to speak, and it's such good wisdom, man, because it's okay to feel bad and have sorrow and to call out things that are wrong, but do it a little bit slower.
Yeah, put it in your drafts.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Think about it first.
Think about it. Not everybody needs to speak out and pop off about everything because, again, the reputation of Christ and the genuineness of our religion, our faith, to an outside world that maybe only gets a few glimpses a day of what it should look like, it kind of depends on it.
Yeah, and it tarnishes your witness, because they're not going to listen to you if you begin to, if you're going to speak that way specifically, and not in love and not whatever. I think, as far as like some of the red flags, you obviously have things like if you have the Holy Spirit, you should be producing fruit, like good fruit. You know, is there growth and transformation in your life, or also like, is how you are in private different than how you are in public? You know, you get that a lot, I feel like, with church people. You know, it's always a thing where it's like you're screaming in the car on the way to church. You're so frustrated. Then you get to church and you're like, hello, how are you guys? Oh, how's everything going? Oh, great. Absolutely great. You know, I almost strung up my child this morning, you know? And so it's like not that things like that aren't okay, but being willing to be vulnerable and being willing to, you know, talk about what's going on in your life that is not okay, what's going on, you know, with those things, like being open.
Well, and we're going to see the flip side of this in the next message, because we will also celebrate things preemptively and prematurely. Like, probably a great example of this was how excited everybody was about Kanye West becoming a Christian and making a Christian record. And then a little bit of more time goes by and you're like, I'm not going to say anything about Kanye West anymore. He's saying some weird stuff, right? Because, and this is the flip side of it, and this is why the book of James is so brilliant. We value influence, we value wealth, oftentimes more than we value the widow and the orphan. And so it all pours into the next thing. They're not just isolated sections. Be quick to listen, slow to speak applies to being angry, but it also applies to placating celebrities or placating people of prominence, right? At the detriment of the widows and orphans and the low in the society.
Yeah, it reminds me. I'm pretty sure it just happened in the Olympics, where it was a runner and they started celebrating, and then somebody passed them.
Wow!
Like where it was like they started slowing down, like, oh, I'm winning, and then
that's a bummer.
And it was like milliseconds, but like you see that, in person there, where it's like sometimes when we celebrate too early, or we begin to boast about things that aren't necessarily that haven't necessarily come to fruition yet, that those things can pass by us, and
let your life be the testimony and the confirmation to others about what you believe. It should be evident what you believe. Like, I think we're so quick to be like, see a wicked thing and then respond to that wicked thing with, well, this is truth. And truth is truth, and we should be bold with the gospel. But is me posting something about a wicked thing that I saw going to inform anybody about what I believe, or is it just going to inform them about my temperament? Like, I am a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ. If somebody does something to offend Christ, they shouldn't have to go, Ray, what do you think of that? Like, I'm a follower of Christ. I love Christ. Of course it offends me. Of course it makes me angry on the inside. It makes me sorrowful, godly anger. You shouldn't need to hear from me on it to know that that's offending me, I should be living in such a way. It's on a micro level. It would be like, it's always telling. Sorry, it's just like real-time buffering right now. It's always very telling to me how holy my friends believe I am by which memes they will send me. And basically by what they think that I think will be funny. And every once in a while, that's a great spiritual check for me. Like, if my friend sends me a highly inappropriate meme with no, disclaimer, and I watch it and go, whoa, that was very wicked and dark. Wait, why did they think that I would like that? But if your friend's sending you very innocuous, maybe theologically based memes, you're like, I think maybe I'm on the right track, you know. And the same goes for anything else in life. People should know. It's like, do people get excited to tell you the dirty joke at work, or are they like, oh, so and so's here, can't tell that joke, you know? Because you're living in such a way, not in a judgmental, like, don't tell that joke around me, but more of a, I just won't take part in that, you know, which is very hard for me because I like jokes of all manner and all kinds, you know.
So obviously, you know, we talked about this a little bit on Sunday with deepfake technology, AI, things like that, you know, and I don't know if you know, but we're currently in political season. But how, you know,
high school elections.
Yeah. How can we apply these principles to discern the truth from falsehood, like specifically in areas like deep fakes and things like that?
Oh yeah.
You know, I feel like a lot of it's funny because, you know, when we were kids, like the thing was always, hey, don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times now I feel like parents, grandparents are believing a lot of things that they read on the internet.
It's odd,
you know?
isn't it?
Yeah. And so it's like, you know, especially, I mean, you have things like clickbait, right? Where they're just trying to get you to click through. And so they're going to put whatever title is going to make you go, oh, you know, or like the scams now, you know, where they'll send a message in your Facebook Messenger, like from one of your fake friends
blocked or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that, or it's like, look at this video of you. It's like, well, nobody's taking any videos of me, so it's probably not me.
I used to get those like, this video of you is wild. I can't believe that they put this out. And I'm like,
or like, I can't believe that they're gone. And it's like some, you know, so it's like the ways that, you
sad,
know,
man.
you look at those things and the scams, deception. And so, you know, part of it is like facts, right? Like gather all the facts. I mean, you look at the 24-hour news cycle, this has, you know, become the thing, and they made fun of it in, was it Anchorman 2 or Anchorman 1? I can't remember.
Why would you think that I would know? See, it would just prove my point.
No. Because I guarantee you've seen it. But it was, you know, this idea that like, you know, it was the first car chase, or whatever. And so they're like, start speculating, you know, like, oh, it's there's a dog driving the car, and, you know, like all of this stuff. And so, you know,
what was it? We don't know any information yet. So the only thing for us to do now is to start wildly speculating.
Yeah. Well, and that's what happens now. You know, it's like, there's been a mass shooting at Walmart in Kenosha, Washington. 53 people are dead, you know, and then it's like later it's like, well, actually 3 people got injured.
Yeah, nobody died.
Yeah. You know,
it's still sad.
Yeah.
Well, that happened in my hometown.
It's that like we just level things up so much because they want to get you to click through to their story. And so they're just like, okay, what can we say to get people to click through or to watch or whatever?
Yeah, and it gets away from you so quick. That's the slow to speak part, isn't it? Because like in my hometown, we have this thing called Nextdoor. It's like Carlinville Talk of the Town, but like times a million. So it's an app that lets you know what's going on in your neighborhood. And I get a ton of like, and Ring does this too, like the Ring notifications. I got a ton of things. Same thing. Mass shooting at Tyler Mall. Mass shooting at Tyler Mall. Gunshots fired. Police called to evacuate. All this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then like a few hours later, somebody just broke a window. It was one of those pressure windows, and they threw something, and it was at the jewelry place, and it broke the jewelry case window, and it went pop, and it sounded like a gunfire, and everybody freaked out. It was one pop. That was it. Yeah, It's kind of like
yeah.
the telephone, purple baby dishwasher or whatever. This is old Simpsons episode where they do,
Wow, why do you think that I would know about The Simpsons?
it's the gospel is according to
Homer.
Matt Groening. Yeah. So Skinner says the teachers are going to crack, and then at the end of it, it's Skinner says the teachers are going to crack purple baby dish monkey or whatever, like dishwasher. It's that that game of telephone. It just gets escalated so much because people are not slow to speak. They
Well, and two, I've had this happen in telephone before, where you want to ruin it, so you add things or you change them. You know exactly what they said, but you change them.
Oh yeah,
just
you
to
want to make it more sensational.
Yeah. And so, and that's the exact same thing.
I had somebody come up to me and go, we're not finishing the kitchen until after the roof gets put on. I was like, no, wait, is that why the kitchen's not done?
Yeah.
Somebody
wait, do
heard?
I need to talk to somebody?
I'm like, wait, and then I got to the bottom. I'm like, oh yeah, somebody had stalled out because they had heard somebody say a comment somewhere that, oh, we probably should wait till the roof is done to finish the kitchen. And it's like, oh no. And it's just one of those, like, you should have been slow to listen, bro. No, but we'll be fine. We're gonna have a kitchen. But it's just those little things.
Sometimes it's, you don't go to the source, which, it's like, I ask everyone except you,
right.
When you could have just asked me and you would know that wasn't true or whatever. As long as we have a strong enough relationship that we trust each other, but,
no shots fired at Galleria Mall in Riverside, California, by the way.
James warns about deceiving others by merely hearing the word and not doing it. Mm-hmm. How can we ensure that our faith is active and not just theoretical?
That's a great way to put it. Not just theoretical. It's like I'm not going to put him on blast. He's not watching. My brother, man. He's if you are watching, it's a character flaw, bro. He goes hard in the research when he wants to do something. Really hard. Like fitness, meal planning, gets all the stuff together, and then he'll tell me all about it. Like, oh, why do you should do, this is really good for you. This is blah, 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 blah. But then he often doesn't
practice it,
do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the benefits of being vegan. Why are you eating a cheeseburger, bro? And so that's the theoretical mindset. But the thing is, you can fool yourself. And that's what James says. He says, you're only fooling yourself. It's easy to fool yourself. It's easy to know all the right things and to say, and even as a pastor to teach the right things. But if you're not practicing the things that you're teaching, if it has no effect on you, you're first fooling yourself. It's the lie you tell yourself that you end up believing about yourself. If you say it enough, you'll start to believe it. And sometimes it's easy to your detriment. And it's like, I'm nothing. I'm not worth anything. I suck at everything. Who would want to hire me? Who would want to marry me? All this kind of stuff. You're fooling yourself. You're living in theory time, You need to get out of theory time and get into, time to act, time to work out. And it's like, I've studied enough about the proper way to do a push-up. I should probably just do a push-up, So that's that's the important thing, because nobody should ever desire, especially spiritually, to be self-deceived. That's a sad thing, to be deceiving yourself. We're all self-deceived in some way, shape, or form. I think it's just a human condition. We all believe things about ourselves that is untrue. Maybe it's bad. Maybe it's a hyperbolic thing. It's like, maybe you think you're better than you are. That's a really hard self-deception, because what happens is, if you think of yourself as better than you are, higher than you are, you're constantly going to be disappointed or angry at people who don't match your expectation of who you are for yourself. And so self-deception is hard. And that's why just living in theory zone the theoretical zone of, yeah, this is all true and I believe it, but I'm not going to let it affect me. And it's perfect because it's playing right in, like I said, it's playing right into the faith without works is dead.
Yeah. It takes that application, and that's like, I feel like the hardest part, right? For anything, like you can, like you can have 15 doctorate degrees and, you say that you're an amazing surgeon, but until you've actually physically done it and practiced it, that's why when you do things like, becoming a doctor, like you have to do residency, you have to learn, and you have to do hands-on. There's a lot of things like that where it's like you have to be an apprentice first, because the way that you learn is by doing. Like you can know all the things, but until you apply those things into your actual life or work, you're not necessarily going to be able to physically do them well. And I think part of that too is like you're basically setting goals for yourself, like just making sure that, like you say, I know all this stuff about working out, but like say, okay, I'm going to do 10 push-ups a day, and setting those goals, no matter how small, or I'm going to read one chapter, right? Like start small, or I'm going to read one verse. Either way, you're creating a habit. You're creating that desire for more. You don't start just picking up a 900-page novel and reading it. Like it takes time.
I've never picked up a 900-page novel and read a 900-page novel. I'm not a fiction reader, but yeah.
My older sister used to blow through. Like I remember one time she had Gone with the Wind, which is like, I'm pretty sure it's like 900, might be more. She read it in a day, and I was like, what? It's like, what? Like I could never read that fast. But the more you practice, the more that you become familiar with the idea of reading and comprehending, is the better you're going to be at those things.
Totally. Yeah, my daughter reads like crazy. She always makes fun of me. She goes, "Oh, you don't like to read. You must not be very smart." I'm like, well, if I was reading the stuff you're reading, Wings of Fire, she doesn't read that anymore. Twilight, or whatever. All the, it's like, I read boring stuff, but it's just what you like. But yeah, you're right. It's a thing that you need to put into practice. Man, I was just at an event at Blackburn College. I got to go see the college and stuff. And Mark Hopping, who used to be the cross country coach there.
Name drop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he watches these. He's a good dude. If you want a good conversationalist,
He's go and famous around here.
Is he? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, he was at Blackburn. Everybody knew who he was. So anyway, he's a good dude, very godly man. And so anyway, he invited me to come watch this. And he told the story. I actually would love to somehow capture this story, because it's just perfect for what we're talking about, the endurance of it. We got to have him come in or something, because although he's almost better in front of people. Anyway, so he's telling the story to this track and field, the cross country team, and he's ran the Boston Marathon several times, which is like top of the pile, right? And he talks about the first time he ran and how much he hated it. And then he talks about running, and he gets to like mile 3 and he starts dry heaving. He's like, you would never think that a person like that would run the Boston Marathon in great time. But the conditioning, like you just said, the more he ran more, he practiced it, learned techniques, went beyond theory to practice, and now he's still running, still killing it, because he did it right.
Yeah, and I think it's I think one of the biggest aspects too is that self-reflection, like where you actually take a minute to examine where you're at, where you can improve, or even asking somebody that is close to you, like, hey, where can I get better? What can I do to be better in any capacity of like your life? What is a way that you can heighten yourself to that next level. And a lot of times it takes asking somebody that is at that next level, you know. So, you know, finding somebody that has more knowledge or more experience than you and asking them, how do I get to where you are?
When I was like so inspired just by watching him tell the story, because I was like, I used to run and my knees are jacked up and I don't run anymore, but I was almost like, could I get back in condition? Like, could I run again? Like it's an interesting thing. I remember coming here, I was like, oh, I'm excited for music to be my hobby again. You know, because music's never been my hobby. It's always been my job. But I just don't get it. No, it's always going to be some level of job to me. It's always going to be work to me. So I'm like, I have no hobbies. I remember when I was like interviewing at different, you know, I interviewed at a lot of different churches, and this was the only one foolish enough to hire me. No, I interviewed at a lot of places, and a lot of the breakdown that happened when I was interviewing at some of these places was when they came to the point in the interview and they said, oh, well, tell us about your hobbies. And I was like,
being a dad.
I'm a dad. I don't have hobbies. I had to like, just like pull, well, I like to ski every couple years, you know, and stuff like that. And so when I came here, I was like, you know what? I should probably get something where I can go blow off steam, something that has nothing to do with ministry.
Maybe we should put a rage room in. One of those.
Yeah.
Just like, we got a ton of old technology in there. We could just start breaking stuff.
Well, I got to the point, like the third time I got asked that question, I'm like, oh, I build apps. They're like, that's your hobby? I'm like, yeah, I build apps. I mean, it's a side gig. It's a side job. It's not a hobby. I don't do it for fun. Like, I just started realizing, like, I don't do anything.
This degrading cycle.
And I started getting like bummed. I'm like, what a boring person. I say all that to say, I don't know why it has nothing to do with anything. Maybe I'll start running again.
Yeah. What are some practical ways that we can practice pure and genuine religion in our daily lives?
So again, the word religion isn't what we've made it to be. It means outward display of devotion. And religious acts can be those things, like, you know, going and practicing certain disciplines and praying and stuff like that. But outward display of devotion to Christ could just look like, oh, that mom's struggling over there with her kids and she's, you know, trying to get to maybe I'll help her, you know.
Yeah.
Although there's a tipping point where you just look like a creeper when you do that. Like if you're a dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to help. I'm going to go help. I'm like, but I don't want her to feel like I'm like.
Yeah. Like if I go to Walmart and I smile at a kid, but I don't have my kids, I'm like, hopefully. Or, you know, one of the weird things is, you know, when you work at a church and stuff, you're around a lot of kids. So there was one time at Walmart, I can't remember what kid it was, but they were with their like grandma or something. And so I was like, hey, what's up? And I said their name, you know, and it's like, I'm like, what is this grandma thinking? Like, why does this random person know my kid's name, like my grandson's name or my granddaughter's name?
It's amazing how kindness can be misconstrued. In college, they had the Sadie Hawkins dance where they're like,
in my khaki pants.
Girls ask the guys. It's always a surprise. Yeah. But anyway, they had the Sadie Hawkins dance. And my roommate, really liked this girl. He's like, I hope she asks me. I really like this girl. I was like, yeah. So I'm like, I'm engaged, you know. And so I go up to this girl. I'm like, hindsight's so stupid. I'm like, oh, hey, you going to that? She goes, oh, yeah. She said, so, you know, the girls have to ask the guys, like, you know, it might be a guy that wants you to ask her.
She's
or
like,
wants you to ask
you want to
him.
go with me?
And then she's like, oh, really? All right. So then later on, Erin, she probably didn't remember this. Erin comes, she's like, what's going on? Like, I mean, what? She's like, everybody's saying that, like, Roxy wants to ask you to the Sadie Hawkins dance because she thinks that you want her to ask you. I was like, no, I want her to ask my buddy. I was trying to drop the hint.
Yeah.
You know? She's like trying to be like this nice dude.
Didn't say that very
trying
well.
to help your friend. And then you just come off like a creeper. She's like, he's engaged. Why is he doing that?
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, and so, you know, we talked about, talked about volunteering at like, you know, animal shelter, food bank, things like that.
Yeah.
We talked about foster care. Talked about you know, giving time to the elderly, to widows, to single moms. Talked about basically like offering time and resources just in general. I mean, like being willing to give up your time and your resources, not expecting anything back. I mean, that's the, you know, and that's like with the oil change thing that we have, you know, coming up. Like the idea is not for us to get anything out of it, but just to be able to help in some way. You know, the same thing went for when we did the gift card invites. Like the idea was not necessarily that they would come to our church, but that we would give them a gift of food or a gift of something.
Yeah. In the name of Christ. And
Yeah.
know.
And obviously, yeah, there's a hope that if they decide to come to church, or when they decide to come to church, that they would come here. But that was not the main, you know.
Yeah.
We could have just handed them a card that said, "Hey, come to church," but the idea was to provide. And so if we can do something to provide for someone without any let's say backlash, not backlash, but you know, without getting anything back, that's kind of,
well, and that's why James says it is pure and undefiled religion, because I think one of the points of the message was the greatest test of Christian charity is in how we treat those who can do nothing for us in return. You're not gonna get a return, and that is the test of charity, the test of love. That's pure religion, is taking care of those people that aren't going to have anything to offer you in return, other than the fact that, I'll tell you, when you do these things, like you get a taste of it, you just want to do it more. It's like it feels so good to do stuff like that. Yet we have, we definitely have we have dementia in that area. Like we forget how good it feels, and that's why we're trying to set up events at the church, not to be the ones to do this for you, but to inspire the saints to do the work of ministry, to provide a platform for it. Because it's a lot easier, you know, to say, hey, my church is doing free oil changes for single moms. I think you would benefit from that. Here, can I sign you up? Oh yeah, the church is doing it. That's great. As opposed to like, hey, I noticed you're a single mom. You have anybody changing your oil for you?
You want to come to my garage?
It's kind of weird, right? You know, so there's like a layer of protection there. You know, same thing with widows, and you know, we want to get involved in a lot of different areas in our area. You know, so many people view like missions as something you have to get on a plane to do, or something you have to go across a border to do.
Yeah.
Your mission field is, you know, Jesus said, go into all the world. If you look at the original Greek and you break it down, it's as you go, wherever you go, make disciples.
Active, yeah.
It's just do it now, you know. And he says, don't exclude any area. So when he says Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, puts that in there, and the ends of the earth. Well, those last two there, Samaritans and Jews don't get along, so your enemies, take it to your enemies. And then the ends of the earth, that means Gentiles, people outside your culture.
Filthy Gentiles.
Go to Rome. Go to, those filthy Gentiles. I'm a Gentile.
Yeah, it's like the filthy us.
I walk through my house every once in a while. And 3 out of 4 people in my household look at me with disdain because they're Jewish. And me and Olivia are sitting over there. We have to go. We can't get water in the morning. We have to go in the afternoon in the heat of the day.
Oh gosh.
My wife even suggested that we get well water. And okay.
Okay. That's horrible. It's so funny. How does unresolved anger affect our ability to live out genuine faith? And what steps can we take to deal with it?
Yeah. Man, anger is such a quick way to destroy your credibility, and it's so hard to get it back. I hate it. I hate it so much. You're like working throughout the day or driving, and then something you did out of anger 20 years ago pops in your head, and you see it through the context of somebody who's been sanctified. And you're just like, no, why did I do that? It happens to me all the time. I was like young in ministry, and I got super angry. I've always had this issue, but I got super angry at my boss, the pastor. I was like an 18-year-old kid. And I look back on it and I'm like, I want to like reach back in time and erase it from ever happening. And I was just so rude to the pastor, and I was like stormed off, and it was over something pointless. Like, I was tired, I was working, I was doing a lot of stuff, in ministry. It's like sometimes the very few low position does a lot of the stuff. And so I was angry because of that. I shouldn't have been. I should have been serving the Lord. But I look back on that moment, and it still haunts me. And I think that day, my reputation with that man was tarnished almost beyond repair. And it's a bummer to me to know that could happen.
Yeah.
It's amazing what it could do. I mentioned the song, words can be a symphony, but words can ruin your life. And it's totally true. The same mouth that brings God praise is quick to cause division. It's this weird, out of the same mouth, blessings and cursings is what it says. It's a very, very, very hard thing. And we're going to talk about the tongue and how to control the tongue in chapter 3.
Yeah. And I mean, that anger that so easily comes out, like, grows, and it festers, and it can become bitterness from you or from the person you were angry at. It can begin to break relationships. It can begin to make them look at you different.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as far as like how you deal with it, you obviously have, confessing that to God. But then on top of that, you have the aspect of forgiveness and, asking for forgiveness from those that you have blown up on for no reason, or even for a reason, because we aren't supposed to act that way.
And you'll even say things that aren't true, that you don't even believe.
Oh yeah.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Because you can't cork that back up,
Yeah. So in the sermon, you mentioned that love is the test that proves the purity of religion. Mm-hmm. How can we ensure that love rather than outrage defines our response to current events and social situations?
It's the slow to speak, I think. Because you're quick to listen to what the Lord is telling you to do, and it's kind of like it's the THINK acronym. I'm just trying to remember it in real time here, but it's whenever you want to say something, whatever your reaction is, stop and think. So, is it true? Is what you're about to say true? Probably would kill most things right there. I'm going to share this and get mad about, it wasn't even true. Okay. I forget what the I stands for. I don't even know if it has an I. Is it incremental? I don't know. And then the N is it necessary? Is what you're about to say going to add to the discourse? Is it even necessary for you to say it? Then K.
Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it
inspiring?
Necessary?
That's what it is.
And is it kind?
Is it kind? Yeah. So true. Is it helpful? Helpful and necessary. I think they're just trying to be smart, but helpful and necessary is almost the same thing. Is it true? Helpful? Yeah. Inspiring? Yeah. Is it going to inspire people to love Christ more, or is it just going to make them hate Christians more? Mm-hmm. Is it necessary? Obviously, the same thing as helpful. And then, is it kind?
Yeah.
It says in the scriptures, his kindness is intended to lead you to repentance. And if it doesn't cause you to want to repent, it's probably not kind.
Yeah. Well, and I think usually we're so quick to judge, we hear of situations where it's, whether there's sexual sin or a drug addiction or all these things, and we're always so quick to judge. And really what we should be doing is showing compassion and understanding, and figuring out where they're at so that we can then better help or better assist, in those ways. And then, coming to a point with humility and grace, and not, attack, which is a lot of times how we want to do. And then frankly, just prayer, like, praying for those involved. We always want to pray for the victim and never the person that did it. And I think that is, something very clear in the Bible. Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. And then, focus on things that are going to uplift and encourage rather than knock down. And so I think that we have to be better. And obviously, it's that slow to speak. Like, it's okay. Hold on. Before I say anything, am I about to say something that's going to build up or tear down? And how do I go about this? Because a lot of times we do want to, like, that knee-jerk reaction, or you can see it on the face, some of us have those faces that just don't hide anything. You tell me something, you're like, like, what's up with your face? What do you mean?
That's my favorite thing to do. Like when I'm watching any kind of like political speech or something, just watch the people behind the guy giving the speech or the girl giving the speech. And it's like the State of the Union or whatever, it's like you just never know.
What does it mean to look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free?
Yeah, it's examine. It's like James says, it's the mirror. So you want to examine it and let it examine you. You're looking carefully, not for condemnation, but to realize how great God's grace is and His kindness is, which should lead you away from the things that you're not supposed to do.
Yeah. So this last thing, how can we as individuals or small groups contribute to these initiatives that you had talked about, like the food giveaways, the things, the oil changes, the fostering ministry, whatever. How can we contribute to these and reflect deep faith in our community?
Well, immediately, if you text, I gotta find the number again. It's 217. That's all I remember. Hold on, because we have a text messaging system in which you can find the logistics, which is nice. Yeah, it is 217-290-1201. And anything that we've mentioned, oil changes, it'll send you a link where you can either sign up to serve or sign someone up to receive a free oil change. Might be good to ask them permission before you sign them up, because we're going to be contacting whoever you put on the form. We've already gotten a few submissions. We need guys and girls to not only change the oil, but make runs to the store if we need to make runs to the store. We need people to greet the ladies. Maybe they don't go to church here. Show them to their seat. Treat them like family. Get their kids checked into childcare if they have kids. There's something about, especially for widows, there's probably, I would imagine, a reluctancy to go into areas where there are families, because you're going to be sitting alone and everybody's going to be sitting with their family. It's like they should become enfolded into our family. Like, bring them in, let them sit with you. Like, not to, you know, treat them as pariahs or anything like that, but to treat them as honored guests, you know. So many people that are able to do that, you know, we're probably going to cook a meal for them. So those are the logistical things. Same thing with the foster thing. We're not quite to the point where we're ready. We got to finish this kitchen so we can free up the space. But, you know, text that number and say, I'm interested in the foster ministry, and we'll get you on a list, you know, and be vigilant. And then beyond that, beyond just like the areas of organized church, be quick to listen. You know, there are a lot of people in our ministry, in our church, in our family that are doing so much. Like I think of Sandy Dunn, who's feeding the homeless. She'll tell you about it. Just listen to her. She'll tell you what the need is. She'll help you. There's folks at Foster, they'll tell you all about it and the difficulty of it. There's people who are struggling as single moms, you know, have eyes to see, you know, have ears to hear what the Spirit will say, and have eyes to see where the Spirit will tell you to go. And if you'd be surprised if you just prayed to the Lord, give me eyes today for someone to bless, He'll give you those eyes. And that's why I never pray that. I'm too busy. I don't want to do anything. No, He will. You know, that's how reliable He is.
Well, I think a lot of times we forget that, you know, you have the aspect of like physically volunteering. Like I am going to help change oil. I'm going to help the foster closet. Yeah. But I mean, there are other ways that you can help in, you know, whether that's monetarily or through prayer, you know, and, you know, monetarily, like that's obviously the way that we get filters and get oil or things like that. And so, you know, being willing to say, hey, I can't really help, but I can help in this way. Or, you know, I'm not necessarily going to be able to change the oil, but I can be here as a ear. I can be here to play with the kids while the mom is talking, you know. There's so many different aspects of that, just being a body, you know. I feel like we've never had an event where we could have too many volunteers.
No,
there's always a way that you can serve. And even if that's making sure the bathroom has toilet paper, you know, like things like that, where it's just like there are so many ways that you can serve.
And that's why it's good to be like considered a family. Like, unless you're my kids, if I go to the bathroom and I'm like, oh, the toilet paper's out, I know where the toilet paper is and I can replace it, you know. So it's like, it doesn't have to be your job. You don't have to sign up on a form to see something and do something, you know. If somebody in the body's hurting, you know, step in and fill a need.
Yeah. So, what's this Sunday's message?
This Sunday's message is titled "Respect the Drip."
Respect the drip.
Respect the drip. The right drip. Put on Christ. That's what we should care about when we show up to church. You know, James is going to touch on something that is pretty prevalent in our culture, which is giving favoritism to celebrities, giving favoritism to like the wealthy people, but neglecting the ones that don't look the way that you want them to look and stuff like that. It's like, no, they're all part of the body of Christ, and there's a lot of warnings there. There's going to be an opportunity to hear an interview with the guy who started the Instagram account Preachers and Sneakers. His name is Ben Kirby. If you're not familiar with that, just go look up Preachers and Sneakers. It's pretty hilarious. Yeah. He posts photos of prominent pastors wearing really expensive clothes and sneakers, and then he just puts the price tag next to all those things. And it opened up a huge discussion in the church world. It's like, why are these pastors wearing $10,000 drips, you know? And so it plays perfectly into it, and he's got a heart for it. And he's uncovered something that he probably didn't want to uncover. He was just kind of messing around, and now he's speaking on. He's a good dude, got a kid, wife, served in the military. So we're going to hear from him as well.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I guess as far as dates, is there anything coming up that?
We got our women's conference,
Yeah.
October 12th, which is it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I was talking about it with my wife last night, and she was explaining what they were talking about having. And I was like, dude, I want to be at this conference, but
There is so much love and care.
It really
going into
is.
This.
I mean, they're volunteering the time. None of these ladies are getting paid. In fact, they're spending a lot of money to do things, their own money, because they love and are behind
and
this.
see the value. Yeah.
And it's woven, which I think is a great theme, being knit together and by our love for one another is a really good thing.
Yeah.
And it's not just for our church, it's for anybody in the area that wants to gather with other women and be encouraged. Speaker's going to be great. Worship's going to be phenomenal. They're bringing in the best of the best. And then the session breakouts sound fun. It's not to be missed for sure.
Yeah.
All ages, especially like teens up to 90s,
Yeah.
it's going to be good.
Yeah. I always hate what is it? I think Legos used to say like from blank to 99. I'm like, what happens if you're 100? You can't play with Legos?
This is an old guy sitting there crying.
Yeah.
I can't play Legos anymore.
Yeah. But, literally any woman, high school up,
Yeah.
we would love to have you come to the conference, and it's going to be amazing. And then the oil change thing is on
October
6th.
We kind of strategically put it right before the conference so that
Yeah.
maybe we can get that. And then obviously we have our small groups starting up September 4th.
Oh yeah. That's
so you're
fun.
definitely going to want to come if you're wondering like, what's my next step in getting involved and getting connected with people.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the people are. This is where you can get in circles, not just sit in rows. We're going to have a meal. I think the kitchen will be done, so we'll have a good meal. And then we're going to have worship all together, and then we're going to break out into our sessions. And you can go and find, under the midweek tab on the website, find your fit, Find what group will resonate with you the most.
Yeah, and we're adding group leaders all the time
Yeah,
as
we're
we get
adding,
videos filmed. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for checking it out. We hope that you can either attend in person or online tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Time, and we will hope to see you there.